Imagine wrestling with an opponent all night long, refusing to let go until you receive a blessing. Now imagine that opponent is God himself. This actually happened, and it changed one man's identity forever. Our story centers on Jacob, whose very name means deceiver or supplanter. And he lived up to that name from the moment he was born, grasping his twin brother Esau's heel. This wasn't just a quirky birth detail, it was a prophecy of the conflict that would define his early life. Jacob grows up in ancient Canaan, around 1800 years before Christ. He's the grandson of Abraham, the father of faith. His family carries God's covenant promise, but Jacob's methods for securing his destiny are anything but holy. He's cunning, manipulative, and willing to exploit anyone to get what he wants. First, he tricks his starving brother Esau into selling his birthright for a bowl of stew. Then, with his mother's help, he deceives his blind father Isaac, stealing the blessing meant for Esau. Jacob literally wears his brother's clothes and goat skins to smell and feel like Esau. When Isaac blesses him thinking he's Esau, Jacob secures the family inheritance through outright fraud. The consequences are immediate and terrifying. Esau vows to kill him. Genesis 27 verse 41 says Esau harbored a grudge against Jacob and said to himself, "The days of mourning for my father are near, then I will kill my brother Jacob." Jacob flees for his life, running hundreds of miles to his uncle Laban in Haran. During his journey, something remarkable happens. At a place called Bethel, Jacob has a dream. He sees a ladder reaching to heaven with angels ascending and descending. God speaks to him, confirming the covenant promises made to Abraham and Isaac. Jacob wakes up and declares, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." He's beginning to encounter the God of his fathers personally. Jacob spends the next 20 years with Laban, and here's where the deceiver gets a taste of his own medicine. He falls in love with Rachel, Laban's younger daughter. He agrees to work 7 years for her hand in marriage. But on the wedding night, Laban switches daughters, giving Jacob the older sister Leah instead. The trickster has been tricked. Jacob works another 7 years for Rachel. During this time he builds a family. He fathers 11 sons and a daughter through his 2 wives and their maidservants. He also becomes wealthy, using his own cunning to outsmart Laban in their business dealings. The pattern continues. Jacob keeps manipulating circumstances to benefit himself. But God is working behind the scenes. After 20 years, God tells Jacob it's time to return home. Jacob gathers his family and possessions and leaves without telling Laban. When Laban catches up, there's conflict, but they eventually make peace. One obstacle is overcome. Now Jacob faces the bigger problem. He's heading back to Canaan, which means he must confront Esau, the brother who vowed to kill him, the brother he wronged so deeply. Jacob sends messengers ahead with gifts, trying to appease Esau. When the messengers return, they report that Esau is coming to meet him with 400 men. Jacob is terrified. Genesis 32 verse 7 says Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. He divides his camp into 2 groups, thinking if Esau attacks one, the other might escape. He prays desperately, acknowledging his unworthiness and begging God for deliverance. This is growth. The self-reliant schemer is finally crying out to God. Jacob sends wave after wave of gifts ahead to Esau. Hundreds of goats, sheep, camels, cattle, and donkeys. He's trying to buy his brother's forgiveness. Then he sends his family across the Jabbok River, and he remains alone on the other side. This is the setup for the most mysterious encounter in his life. Night falls. Suddenly, a man appears and begins wrestling with Jacob. They grapple in the darkness, neither gaining advantage. This isn't a brief scuffle. They wrestle all night long. Hour after hour, Jacob holds on. The stranger is clearly supernatural, yet Jacob refuses to yield. As dawn approaches, the man touches Jacob's hip socket, wrenching it out of place. Even injured, even crippled, Jacob won't let go. He clings to his opponent with desperate determination. The man says, "Let me go, for it is daybreak," but Jacob replies with one of the most audacious statements in Scripture. "I will not let you go unless you bless me." Think about this moment. Jacob is wounded, exhausted, facing an opponent he cannot defeat. Yet he demands a blessing. This is the culmination of his entire life. He's always grasped for blessings through deception. Now he's grasping openly, honestly, desperately. He's finally wrestling with the right opponent in the right way. The man asks, "What is your name?" Jacob answers, "Jacob." In Hebrew culture, names carry deep meaning. By stating his name, Jacob is confessing his identity. I am the deceiver, I am the supplanter, I am the schemer. It's a moment of brutal honesty, then comes the transformation. The man declares, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel. Because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome. Israel means he struggles with God. Jacob receives a new identity, forged through this night-long battle. He's no longer defined by his deception, but by his persistence with God. Jacob asks the man's name, but he doesn't answer directly. Instead, he blesses Jacob right there. As the sun rises, Jacob realizes who he's been wrestling with. He names the place Peniel, saying, it is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared. He limps away from that place, permanently marked by the encounter. The next day, Jacob meets Esau, but something has changed. Jacob approaches humbly, bowing 7 times. Esau runs to meet him, and instead of violence there's embrace. Esau has forgiven him. The reconciliation Jacob feared becomes a moment of grace. The brother he wronged shows him mercy. This story reveals profound truths about spiritual transformation. Jacob's wrestling match teaches us that sometimes God meets us in our deepest struggles. The wounds we receive in these encounters, like Jacob's limp, become marks of transformation. They remind us that we've met God and been changed. Jacob's persistence shows us that God honors those who refuse to give up in seeking him. He didn't win through strength but through determination. He held on when any reasonable person would have quit. His demand for blessing, even in defeat, demonstrates the kind of faith that moves God's heart. The name change signifies that our encounters with God redefine us. We're no longer bound by our past identities or failures. Jacob the deceiver becomes Israel, the father of God's chosen nation. His 12 sons become the 12 tribes of Israel. His legacy shapes all of biblical history. This story also shows us that facing our past is part of spiritual growth. Jacob couldn't move forward until he confronted Esau. His wrestling with God prepared him for reconciliation with his brother. Our vertical relationship with God affects our horizontal relationships with others. Jacob's limp reminds us that transformation often comes through struggle and even pain. We're marked by our encounters with God. These marks humble us, reminding us of our dependence on divine grace rather than human cleverness. The man who once schemed for blessings learned to wrestle for them honestly. The deceiver became the father of a nation. The supplanter became Israel. And it all happened because one night, he refused to let go of God until he received what only God could give. His story challenges us to wrestle with God in prayer, to persist in faith, and to allow our struggles to transform us into who God created us to be.